5 magicians who had their lives interrupted during the show. The curtains open, the spotlights illuminate the stage, and the audience holds its breath in anticipation. The world of magic has always fascinated humanity with its impossible tricks, its illusions that defy logic and reason. But behind the glitter of sequins and the sound of applause, there exists a dark side that few know. Some performances that should have been mere entertainment transformed into real nightmares, where the final trick was written by fate itself. Magic demands perfection. 1 second of distraction, 1 wrong movement, 1 defective piece of equipment, and the impossible becomes tragically real. Throughout history, several artists paid the highest price for their art, transforming stages into scenarios of tragedies that shocked the world. Before we begin the story, subscribe to the channel, like and comment below what you thought. Your participation helps the channel grow a lot and motivates me to bring even more content to you. Number 5. Chung Ling Soo, The Fatal Secret of the Bullet Trick. The Wood Green Empire Theatre in London was packed on that cold night of 23 March 1918. More than 1,600 spectators anxiously awaited the performance of one of the most famous magicians of the era, Chung Ling Soo, known as the Marvelous Chinese. His colorful turban and extravagant Oriental attire made him unmistakable. For years, he had enchanted audiences throughout Europe with his exotic and mysterious tricks. But Chung Ling Soo kept a secret even greater than any of his illusions. He was not Chinese. His real name was William Ellsworth Robinson, an American born in New York who created a completely false persona to stand out in the competitive world of magic. He never spoke in public, always using an interpreter, maintaining his farce for decades. On that fateful night, he was preparing to perform his most dangerous and popular trick, catching a bullet fired from a rifle. The trick was a carefully rehearsed illusion, where projectiles marked by the audience would supposedly be fired at the magician, who would catch them on a porcelain plate. In reality, the rifle had 2 barrels, and the real bullets were never fired. 2 assistants positioned themselves on stage, holding old rifles. The audience watched in absolute silence. The drums created growing tension. The weapons were ceremonially loaded. Chung Ling Soo assumed his position, confident as always, holding the porcelain plate before him like a mystical shield. The shot echoed through the theater like thunder. But this time something was terribly wrong. The magician staggered backward, his hands clutching his chest. The porcelain plate fell to the floor, shattering into 1,000 pieces. Blood began to stain his colorful attire. The audience initially thought it was part of the show. But when Chung Ling Soo fell to his knees, the terrible reality imposed itself. "My God, I've been shot," he said in perfect English, his first and last public words in his native language, breaking the silence of an entire career. The theater exploded in panic. Screams echoed as people ran in all directions. He was immediately taken to the hospital, but the wound was too severe. The bullet had pierced his lung. The next day, 24 March, William Ellsworth Robinson died at 56 years of age. The subsequent investigation revealed that the rifle had been used for so long that it developed cracks in the false barrels, allowing gunpowder and the real projectile to pass through the safety mechanism. His death shocked the entertainment world. Ironically, the man who lived a lie for decades revealed his true identity only in his last moments of life. The bullet trick, which had been successfully performed hundreds of times, finally claimed its price. Number 4. Genesta, the water torture that became reality. Joseph Genesta was known throughout Scotland as a talented escapist. In the early 20th century, the art of escapism was at the height of its popularity, driven by the legendary Harry Houdini. Genesta followed in the master's footsteps, specializing in impossible escapes from chains, handcuffs, and sealed containers. In May 1918, he was performing at the Music Hall in Edinburgh, capital of Scotland. His specialty was the underwater escape, being bound in heavy chains and locked inside a steel tank filled with water, from which he should escape in a few minutes. The audience watched horrified and fascinated as the clock marked the seconds. On that fateful afternoon, Genesta had meticulously checked his equipment, as he always did. The chains were in order, the locks functioning perfectly, and the water tank was prepared. He confidently entered the metal container, his chains making metallic sounds as he sank into the icy water. The lid was closed and sealed. In the first few minutes, everything seemed normal. Occasional bubbles rose to the surface. The assistants remained alert, stopwatch in hand. The audience collectively held its breath. But then something changed. The bubbles became more frequent, more desperate. Time continued passing beyond what was expected. 5 minutes. 6 minutes. 7 minutes. Panic began to set in among the assistants. They tried to open the tank, but the locks were jammed. Something had gone wrong. Tools were hastily fetched while the audience began to perceive the gravity of the situation. Screams of desperation echoed through the theater. When they finally managed to force the tank open, it was too late. Genesta was still trapped in the chains, his face frozen in an expression of absolute terror. He had drowned before hundreds of helpless spectators. The subsequent investigation revealed that one of the locks had jammed unexpectedly, making his escape impossible. He was only 29 years of age. His death served as a cruel reminder that escapism tricks were not merely theatrical illusions, but genuinely dangerous situations where death was always lurking, awaiting the slightest error. Number 3. Ballabrega. When fire ceased to be illusion, José Ballabrega began his career in the cabarets of Barcelona in the early 20s. His specialty was tricks with fire, making flames appear from nowhere, crossing walls of fire, and manipulating flaming torches with a dexterity that seemed supernatural. The Spanish public adored him, and his fame quickly spread throughout Europe. On 28 April 1937, during the Spanish Civil War, Ballabrega was performing in an improvised theater in an area not yet affected by the conflict. He wanted to bring joy and distraction to people living through terrible times. His final act involved wearing a suit specially treated with chemicals supposedly fireproof, being engulfed in flames and then dramatically extinguishing the fire. The audience, composed mainly of refugees and soldiers on leave, watched marveled. Ballabrega did his usual ritual, applying the protective liquid to his clothes. His assistants held lit torches. With a dramatic flourish, he gestured for them to begin. The flames enveloped his body instantly. But something was drastically wrong. The protective chemicals had been replaced by mistake or sabotage, was never fully clarified. Instead of creating only an illusion of fire, his body actually began to burn. His screams of agony pierced through the theater, replacing the music that should have accompanied the trick. The panic was instantaneous and overwhelming. Assistants ran with blankets, desperately trying to extinguish the real flames consuming the magician. The audience went into collective shock. Some ran to help, others fled horrified. The smell of burning flesh filled the air. Ballabrega was rushed to a field hospital, but suffered burns on 80% of his body. He agonized for 3 terrible days before finally succumbing to his injuries. He was only 42 years of age. It was never determined with certainty whether it was a tragic accident or an act of sabotage related to the tensions of the Civil War. Number 2. Washington Irving Bishop, the clairvoyant. Who was declared dead too soon? Washington Irving. Bishop was not a traditional magician. He proclaimed himself a mind reader, capable of discovering hidden thoughts and concealed objects through what he called muscle reading. In the late 19th century, he was an international celebrity, performing for European royalty and the wealthiest of American society. Born in New York on 4 May 1856, Bishop had a serious medical secret. He suffered from catalepsy, a rare neurological condition that caused episodes where his body became completely rigid and he lost consciousness. Appearing dead, he always carried a card in his pocket warning of his condition, asking not to be declared dead prematurely should he suffer an attack. On the night of 12 May 1889, Bishop was performing at the Lambs Club in New York, a prestigious social club frequented by the city's elite. He was in the middle of a particularly intense mind-reading demonstration, deeply concentrated while trying to discover an object hidden in another room. His face was tense, sweat ran down his forehead. The audience watched him fascinated. Suddenly, at the height of his concentration, Bishop staggered. His hands clutched his head. He emitted a low groan and then collapsed to the floor like a puppet whose strings had been cut. Club members ran to help him. Someone shouted for a doctor. His body was completely rigid with no apparent pulse, no visible breathing. 3 doctors who were present at the club examined him quickly. After brief checks, they declared Washington Irving Bishop dead. The diagnosis was brain hemorrhage. His body was taken to a local morgue that same night where, a few hours later, medical examiners performed a complete autopsy. It was during the procedure that the horrifying truth came to light. When the medical examiners opened his skull, Bishop's brain began to bleed profusely, fresh oxygenated blood, from someone who was still alive when the incision was made. The brain hemorrhage that supposedly had killed him was actually caused by the autopsy itself. Washington Irving Bishop had not died at the Lambs Club. He had suffered a severe cataleptic attack, exactly as he had warned dozens of times. The warning card was in his pocket when they found him, but in the rush and confusion, no one checked it. He was declared dead prematurely and dissected while still alive, unable to move or scream. Bishop's mother, Eleanor Fletcher Bishop, was devastated when she learned the truth. She sued the Lambs Club doctors and the medical examiners for negligence and involuntary manslaughter. The case created a national scandal about rushed medical practices and the importance of proper checks before declaring someone dead. He was only 33 years of age. The paradox was cruel. A man who spent his life reading others' thoughts died because no one could read the signs of his own body still alive. His tragedy changed medical protocols in several American states, but this brought little comfort to his destroyed family. Number 1. Janaka Basnayake, the serpent that was not charmed, Sri Lanka, a paradisiacal island in the Indian Ocean, has a long tradition of snake charmers. For centuries, these artists have fascinated local audiences and tourists with their apparent ability to hypnotize venomous snakes. Janaka Basnayake was considered one of the best in his craft. With 27 years of experience working with the most dangerous serpents on the island, born in Colombo, Basnayake learned the art from his father and grandfather, both respected charmers. He had a special talent for working with snakes, especially the deadly Russell's viper, known locally as Polonga. With 1.5 meters in length and highly toxic venom, this serpent is responsible for the majority of snakebite deaths in Sri Lanka. On 30 June 2012, Basnayake had been hired to perform a special presentation on a live television program. The show would be broadcast nationally, a great opportunity to demonstrate his skills. He chose his most docile Russell's viper, a serpent with which he had worked dozens of times without incidents. The cameras were on, the spotlight shone intensely. Basnayake assumed his position on the floor, legs crossed, wearing his traditional white sarong. He carefully opened the wicker basket where the serpent awaited. The Russell's viper emerged slowly, its flattened head moving from side to side. Basnayake began to play his pungi flute, the traditional instrument of charmers. Everything seemed normal. The snake swayed gently to the rhythm of the music, its forked tongue going in and out. The film crew captured every movement. The presenter narrated enthusiastically for viewers at home. Basnayake was completely focused, his eyes fixed on the serpent. It was then that it happened, too fast for any reaction. Without warning, the Russell's viper attacked with explosive speed. Its fangs buried themselves in Basnayake's right hand. He screamed in pain and surprise, trying to pull the serpent off, but it held firm for 2 complete seconds before releasing him, enough time to inject a lethal dose of venom. Chaos exploded in the studio. Assistants ran to capture the snake while others helped Basnayake. The cameras continued rolling, transmitting everything live to the entire country. He was immediately taken to the nearest hospital, but the Russell's viper's venom is notoriously fast and destructive. Despite desperate medical efforts and the administration of anti-venom, Janaka Basnayake's body went into collapse. The venom caused massive tissue necrosis, kidney failure, and circulatory collapse. 45 minutes after the bite, he was declared dead at Colombo National Hospital. He was 48 years of age and left behind a wife and 3 children. The irony was poignant. A man who had dedicated almost 3 decades to working in harmony with venomous serpents, who had performed thousands of presentations without serious incidents, was betrayed by a snake he considered trustworthy. The images of those final moments transmitted live shocked the nation and raised debates about the ethics of performances with dangerous animals for entertainment. His death served as a brutal reminder that, no matter how much experience or skill someone possesses, wild nature is never truly domesticated. The snake was not bewitched by the flute. Serpents are deaf to airborne sounds. They respond only to vibrations. On that fateful day, something disturbed the serpent in a way that 27 years of experience could not predict or prevent. These 5 stories remind us that, behind the glamour and fantasy, professional magic is a dangerous art that demands absolute respect. Chung-Ling Soo, Janesta, Balabrega, Washington Irving Bishop, and Janica Basnayake paid the ultimate price for their art. They were not just artists, but true risk-takers who put their lives in danger every time they went on stage. Each of them knew the risks. Each of them took precautions, and yet in the end a moment of bad luck, defective equipment, a medical misunderstanding, or an unpredictable animal transformed their final performances into tragedies that echo through history. Their deaths were not in vain. They led to important changes, more rigorous safety protocols for dangerous tricks, better medical practices for declaration of death, and greater awareness about the real risks these artists face. But the human cost of these lessons was devastating. When we watch a magic show today, whether in a theater, on television, or online, we rarely think about the real danger that may be present. We see only the final illusion, the completed trick, the deserved applause. But these stories remind us that for some, the curtain fell for the last time in a way that no one planned or imagined. Magic continues to fascinate generations, and always will. But now, when the lights go out and the magician appears on stage, perhaps we should remember those who sacrificed everything for the art of illusion. They gave us entertainment, admiration, and finally, important lessons about the limits of human skill before unpredictable fate. If you enjoyed this content and want to see more fascinating and impactful stories, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, activate the notification bell, like this video and share with your friends. Leave in the comments which of these stories impressed you most and what other themes you would like to see on the channel. Your participation is fundamental for us to continue bringing quality content. Until next time, and remember, not all magic has a happy ending.